for me.
They say they wanna see black.
TREADdEEP.
Not today, but you are a diamond mine of information, bro, and we definitely got to get into some of that. And I'm gonna just confess right here. And it's not by design. I think it's just, kind of where I came in from all of this. But we don't spend enough time, and we are, and we'll change that. Focusing on the logistics side of fleet and mobility, right? And that don't really make sense considering the fact that trucking is the nation's number one industry, right? Yeah. Jeff, you reside where, sir? Tell us.
I reside in Atlanta, Georgia, a little bit north, for those folks that like to specifically like, oh, he doesn't live in Atlanta. I live in Marietta, Georgia, which is like a 25 minute ride away from Atlanta, but everybody only knows Atlanta. So we'll just say Atlanta,
Yeah, man, look, the Atlanta Metro, right?
That's right.
Yeah, man. No, shouts to Cobb County.
That's right.
Lots of loved ones there, man, including yourself. How long have you been there? Are you born and bred?
No, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, where it snows up to your kneecaps.
What?
Yeah, family roots. My actual family roots started in Arkansas. My grandmother, my grandfather. The family land and all that stuff is in Little Rock, Arkansas, kind of a little smaller, when you drive through, you didn't realize that you passed, through the city already. That's how quick it is, So, but yeah, that's, where the family roots start from, Arkansas. And then, like I said, born and raised in Buffalo, left Buffalo a few times, just trying to, get out. I figured something better was out there for me. Nothing was wrong with the city. Cost of living is not as expensive as, Georgia is, but I always felt like there was something more for me out there. My first time trying to leave home, I did it the wrong way, as a 20-year-old, graduated high school, didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I took off and went to Charlotte, North Carolina,
What?
Yeah.
Charlotte? Yeah. Raise up. Okay. I didn't. All right.
This was before the football team is downtown.
Oh, wow.
And the Hornets were way out, in the outskirts. This was, 90s. Our church that we attended, we had convocations in Charlotte all the time. So I always loved Charlotte. And I was just like, man, Charlotte is so nice.
Yeah,
hospitality, people, overly friendly, real cool, laid back, never had a bad experience. Could never say anything bad about Charlotte. My daughter lives there. She's 20, about to be 21. And
what? Is she in school here or something?
She's working.
Okay.
She's just working, trying to figure things out as a 20-year-old about to transition to 21. She's actually born on Father's Day at 04. So that was my gift.
What? What? Okay, hold on. So her birthday would be June. Okay, you know what's funny, man? I have a Father's Day child.
Okay.
Yeah, my second oldest daughter is a Father's Day child. So it's like every year it's like, okay, is your birthday on Father's Day?
Yeah. This year is during the week. Yeah.
Yes.
During the week.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay.
And born and raised Buffalo. I always wanted to get out. I did it the wrong way the first time. I ended up coming back home, working for a little while, getting my CDL Class B. And then I was just like, that one winter, it hit me. And I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I got to get out of here. So left, moved to Florida, started working for Pepsi. Pepsi was commissioned down in Pensacola, Florida. I was like, started having, found out I had a kid on the way. I'm like, man, I can't do these checks, because the summertime checks is booming. After Labor Day, checks kind of, so I say, you know what? let me, on my way to my brother's housewarming, listen, let me see what's going on in Georgia if my old job is hired. It was actually, before I left Buffalo, I was working for BFI. I drove BFI and then I drove City Bus also, doing both at the same time. Young, didn't have nothing, just trying to stack my bread.
Yeah.
Had nothing going on, so just trying to stack my bread. And then while I was here, I was like, let me see if they hiring again. It was still within my time frame. It wasn't even a year had left Buffalo. And sure enough, I told them, I was like, hey, if y'all like what y'all hear from me, I know anything about the job. So if you want to hire me, call me at this number. I'm here in Georgia. I could do a second interview. What did they do? They called me in Florida. We hang out with my brother for the housewarming. I drive back to Florida. Voicemail. Hey, we're interested in hiring you. So I'm like, we want you to come back for another interview. So I took back off on my next off days. Went back for the second interview. They was like, hey, we want to hire you. How soon can you, start? I said, hey, I just need to give my job a 2-week notice because, mom's always told you, leave the right way,
Yes,
right.
Yes.
A funny story about that because we'll get into that later. The 2-week notice. Yeah, did the 2-week notice, left. My daughter's mom, she wanted to have the baby in Florida, so she stayed there. Came to get them like sick, baby had the 6-week checkup. Brought him here 4th of July weekend. And then that was it. Never left Georgia since then.
Wow.
My daughter, mom, and my daughter, they moved to Charlotte. So yeah, that's where we at.
Wow. Man, that's dope, man. And it's you get so many check boxes that I've noticed since living in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I have met more people from New York that are transplants to this city, man. And I get it. A lot of it is the financial sector.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know Charlotte is the nation's second largest financial center to Manhattan.
Yes, sir.
And that's not just banks. That's major insurance providers, all kind of other
Mm-hmm.
players in that space, fintech.
Yeah.
But man, I did not. Man, that's quite a story. You brought out some things that yes, I want to bring up a little later,
Mm-hmm.
particularly as it pertains to young people and their journey. But you already told us about having that CDL, man, and we got to get into it. Shame on me, confession. I don't even want to say it because you're gonna look at me sideways. Man, I let my CDL go several years ago, man.
My mom,
like, why?
Exact same.
Why did I do it? And I'm gonna tell you. You know what? Because life is real. You know what I'm saying? It was after the pandemic, not the pandemic. Forgive me. Let me back it up. No. Have mercy. I mix up the hard times. It was the recession. It was the 08-09 recession. I was in ministry, and so I drove buses. You know what I mean? I was part of, old school, church bus ministries and whatnot. I mean, we drove school buses, and shuttles, and I lived in Cali, after a while, and they had the whole rollover issue that they attributed to the old school design of 15-passenger vehicles. So if you drove a 15-passenger vehicle, you had to have a CDL in California. Okay. And so I got my CDL when I lived in Cali, ended up moving back to Tennessee, where I'm from, was in Chattanooga. So an hour and 20 from Marietta.
Yeah.
And I was on struggle, bro. We had our first child on the way, just trying to make it, figure it out. And I didn't have that $40 that I needed to renew. That's all it was. I didn't have to do any retesting or any of that. I just didn't have the money at the time. So life is real, man. But I've often thought, man, I should have kept my CDL, if anything, just for street cred. But I bring that up because I don't know life behind the wheel as a profession, but I do understand, the journey to get a CDL, which ain't as easy as some people think. And when people shout and celebrate that they got that Class B, that's worthwhile. So, I'm tired of seeing people, I think, look down upon who drive for a living, man. Yeah. Jeff, tell us, please, what needs to happen to make driving more professional, right? Because we'll slice out the people who work in offices, right? Who sit in front of a computer all day. Oh, those are professionals. They easily get grouped, but the man, woman behind that wheel is making money for a company, serious money for the company, right? What needs to happen out here in the trucking space, last mile, whatever, to really help elevate the driver's position?
I think it's a few things that need to be happening here. Is just just respect overall. Just understand that everything comes on the truck, regardless of it's a semi truck, a box truck, cargo van, sprinter van, whatever equipment type, something is coming on, because some semi trucks, they can't get in some places. Box trucks can get in some places. Cargo vans can get some places. Just understand that the men and women that have a CDL, even some that don't have a CDL, but they still delivering goods and services to these businesses so that businesses can continue to thrive, continue to stay open and stuff like that. Just realize that the men and women that decide to get into this lifestyle, they're putting a lot on the line, because there's a lot of lonely days and nights. You're not really like sitting next to somebody, just, your co-pilot that's riding with you. You have some people that team drive, but a lot of people, they just want to be on the road with nobody beside them. They just want to do their thing. So just, understanding that the person that chose to do that, just respect them first and foremost. Just respect them, respect their hustle, respect that they understand the responsibility that comes along with having a CDL, because it is a responsibility. We're not driving, a lot of commercial folks, they call it four-wheelers, the people that's in the everyday vehicle. We can't stop as quick as you in your personal vehicle. So they know that space cushion is important. And then when somebody jumps in front of them, they have to slow down even more to make another space cushion, because heaven forbid, the car that jumps in front of you, somebody jumps in front of them and then they slam on their brakes. Now that vehicle, regardless of how big or small it is got all of that equipment on the back, that merchandise on the back. They can't stop on a dime. So, that goes back to respecting what they do, respect the vehicle size, just respect overall. So, I think that a lot of times people just look at, oh, that's just a delivery driver. It's like whatever. I'm just trying to get to where I'm trying to go. Everybody has somewhere they have to go. I have my own dispatcher service, and when you're calling, speaking to somebody about, getting a load to give to this driver, there's appointment times. So of course that person still has to be there at a certain time, day or night, because some places are 24 hours. So it's just like, so overall, first and foremost, it has to be respect. And that's from the driver that's behind that wheel. They have to respect the rules of the road. They have to respect that they have to be safe behind the wheel, because there's a lot of moving parts. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They have people that they say, oh, they're just, the DOT and everybody else is out here to just take my livelihood. Their job is to keep our roads safe. Mm-hmm. Respect. It's still respect. Just respect everybody's role, and just understand that we all have a job to do, regardless of how big or small that truck is.
And is it an overstatement to say that this industry and the people behind it literally keep the world moving?
Absolutely. Because if you can't get your groceries because that truck is held up at the shipper, that you can't get your groceries because there's an accident on 285 and that truck was supposed to be there at 3:00. And he was on time. He or she was on time. They were making good time. They at least had 2-3 hours, but now they have to sit gridlocked on the highway. And then now that person is like, where were you at? Like, I was on 285, missing. I don't want to hear that. Like, hey, I'll just, explain to you what's going on, man. It's not like I was out there, my feet kicked up on the dash, saying I'll just go ahead and I'll start, in a few minutes, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts with, making these deliveries. So, I just think that, it still goes back to, understanding what each person's role is in the industry.
Yeah, man. No, thank you. Thank you for that. And I know you have probably a stack of master classes that you can and probably should be teaching on that, which we'll get into that a little bit here in a minute. You said something that I don't know if we talk about corporate culture. We talk about obviously the various skill sets that people need for whatever they're going to do to earn a living. But something I don't think we think enough, and certainly don't talk enough or plan enough for when we are going for the job. I mean, you even with your personal journey of, okay, y'all hit me while I'm in Atlanta or close so I can do the second interview. But now you got to turn around and go across the state line again several hours to go back and do this interview. But you referenced driving and the choice to get into it as lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Right? Because frankly, the kid who graduates from, the 4-year higher ed institution, with the degree, that's hoping to get a job with plenty of AC and other temperature controls throughout the year and probably not get their fingernails dirty, they're suiting up or hoping to for a change in lifestyle, a new lifestyle, right? Lifestyle takes a lot into consideration.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to be specific here. When it comes to somebody who's got their hands on the wheel for the better part of the day, the better part of any given week, I know there's I don't know if there's enough information about diet, about exercise, about, ergonomics when it comes to how their body's situated for hours and hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're right. You just mentioned there's the whole safety component, right? What do men and women need to be thinking about, preparing for, and doing when it comes to being behind the wheel for their personal health, man? And I'm going to go ahead and say physical as well as mental. What do these people need to be concerned about, and how can they keep that tip top?
I want to first start by saying, in order to be healthy, you have to have that mindset. I have a medical card I have to go get every August. I have to do, for my job that I'm with now, and it could be a 2-year, it could be a 1 year, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times, especially us as men, if you're owner operator, or if you're, a fleet owner or something like that, a lot of times folks are saying, when I get home off my road, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm just going to, go finish my time at home and get ready to get back on the road again. We have to take those steps to, make sure our health is on par. Your blood pressure, your blood sugar. As far as, while you're on the road, get out the truck, walk around, take a little brisk walk, like, hey, shipper, receiver, how long is it going to take before you load me, unload me? 30 minutes. All right, set that clock, go walk around. I know plenty of ladies and gentlemen who bring work an exercise bike with them, or they bring weights with them, jump rope, something that you can do while you waiting to get loaded and unloaded. It helps out a whole lot. It helps, every single time you stop, drinking, water, taking water with you on the road. Not so much as, taking anything from the truck stop, but I know a lot of men and women, they have the refrigerator, the hot plate, they're able to cook in, everything. Some people meal prep for the entire week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long they're out on the road, just changing up little things, not just buying that, I'm going to stick with a Pepsi brand, just, not buying a Pepsi at every truck stop, get that water, from Walmart when you go to Walmart, and take that instead of, putting that Pepsi in your body. Shout out to Pepsi. I love y'all.
Yes. No, man, we are friends of the Pepsi Frito-Lay family, all as well. But they know what you're talking about, and so do we. No, man, that's the heavy side, is how do I think, right? And do I even come into this wanting to be healthy, right? But yeah, man, I don't know if the data really exists how it needs to. Again, I've heard so much when it comes to the negative side of the trucking space be put on the shoulders of the drivers, right? Oh, these people come from this kind of place or this kind of lifestyle, yada, yada. They're not good with money. And I'm like, well, hold on, wait a minute. Pump the brakes, no pun intended. It's like, I'm sure there's going to be some of that. It's people like that making $200,000 a year in a cushy job. You know what I'm saying? But you just described, for example, there are men and women that you personally know who do things that shoot. Most people don't meal prep, bro. Like you can follow as many influencers as you want in the fitness, but man, to get to that point is a serious exercise in discipline. And I guess that's really what I'm asking about and thinking about is the discipline side, and what do people need to be working toward for discipline so that this is sustainable? Not that they're going to drive for 30 years. They might, but is your mind, is your body in shape, enough for whatever moves that you want to make? Tell us, Jeff, because anybody who has an old schooler in their life, and probably some new schoolers too, kind of along these same lines, what are the lesser known safety concerns out here for people on the road, particularly long haul, right? Because if you're doing a more localized route, you probably sleep, you're sleeping in your own bed at night, so on and so forth. But even that, depending on certain areas you may drive through or whatever. What are some of the lesser known safety concerns or risks that maybe us lay people need to be thinking about so we can keep people in prayer, or even from a corporate standpoint, maybe make some real adjustments on behalf of those who work for us?
Yeah, my favorite line when it comes to safety, because that's always my number one thing. Like, I pride myself on never have I ever had an accident in a commercial vehicle. Never have I ever had an accident in my personal vehicle. Someone has hit my vehicle, but as far as me causing the accident, never in my history of driving. And I started driving when I was 14 years old.
Come on.
We'll talk about that, later too. But if you're not safe, you can't make service. That's my number one thing right there. If you're not safe, you can't make service. So when you talk about safety matters, proper pre-trip, proper rest. I would say nutrition, but my health isn't like the typical A1, poster person, for not eating snacks and, not doing these different things. Like, my wife tells me all the time, like, hey, don't eat them Reese cups. Like, okay, don't eat the Reese cups. Like, I'm just gonna eat one or two, and then the rest. Next thing you know, they all gone. So
you talk about you got the 4-pack joint.
The king size, the big boys like this.
Yeah.
Just know your health status. I know I'm not sure if you know, but I'm a part of a trucking association here in Atlanta, and we have a health and wellness division, and we do come to different events and, focus on the truckers out there, regardless of who you drive for, whatever. Come out there, get checked, if you don't want to go to your doctor, at least like, hey, I need to go see my doctor, this week, versus waiting until something happened and then you forced to go. And then now you're, if you're like you and I, if we're behind the wheel, we have a family that we're providing for,
Yes.
Yeah, we have our spouses still working, but, they're expecting us to, be able to leave the house, come back home the same way we left out. So from a safety perspective, that's always number one, just, safety and service. They go together.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible, man. Most of what we're talking about right now, I would classify as elective decisions, right? Hey, I'm deciding I'm gonna eat this way. I'm deciding to be proactive and get my blood work on a annual basis or whatever the case may be. What aren't there requirements by law for certain drivers when it comes to vision screenings and drug testing and whatnot? Break that down for us.
Absolutely. As far as I can speak to as far as your DOT physicals, when you're in a commercial vehicle, you like I said, what I referenced a few minutes ago, you have a medical card. And the person who's giving you the DOT physical, they'll let you know, like they measure your neck, they do your blood pressure. You make sure you don't have any drugs in your system. So you basically out there, when you out there, they're going to make sure that you're safe to be behind the wheel, because the last thing that any medical profession or anybody wants their personal selves to be behind the wheel and they have a medical emergency and then they take out, a family of 4, mom, dad, grandmother, whoever the case may be, school bus of children. Nobody wants any of those things on them saying, man, if I would have gone to the doctor and checked my blood pressure, I wouldn't be able to, I would have this to happen to me. So always know your status. That, sounds like a health thing from something else. We talk about, knowing your health status, but it's important. It's important because the last thing you want to have something happen to you as a person. It's all about you as an individual.
Yeah, man, you're carrying a lot of responsibility, man. That's real. All right, let's get into it, Jeff.
Let's go.
The last 5 to 7 years have really shown just a lot of activity for the Black community when it comes to this trucking and logistics space. Somebody let the lid off, right? And it's like, yo, here's a way to get paid, right?
Yeah.
I'm speaking in simplified terms because this is what I hear, this is what I see on social and whatnot. And I also know people like you and some others who actually provide real consultation as part of your day-to-day business affairs on really properly navigating toward success in this. I don't really even know where to start, man. But what I from our perspective at BFN, wanting to see Black folks successful from a sustainable standpoint, and avoiding as many missteps in business as possible, which has everything to do with, okay, do you have your paperwork, right? And whether that's certification, degree, blood work, whatever the case may be, but also, do you have your soft skills intact, right? Do you know how to listen? Do you know how to talk to somebody? Do you understand networking, right? But also the benefit that we have as part of all this, and the reason we exist in part is we ain't here to gatekeep. Right. Like, where there have been these secrets almost out here to success. Like, hey, collectively, we know the secrets. I might not know what Jeff knows. Jeff might not know what Chris knows, but man, together, we're going to get this thing figured out. Mm-hmm. I know have met and worked with, I'm sure, ill representation and proportion of people who got into this, lost a bunch, lost money, I'm sure lost some other things that were precious, and are not in business today. What do people need to understand, for starters, about getting in this space? Because this whole concept of, me and Cuzzo gonna get this first box truck, he gonna drive, I'm gonna handle the business, then we'll get the next one, and then we'll have 5. Yeah, I know there are those success stories, but tell us, Jeff, what's the reality?
Let's get into that right quick. So, first and foremost, this is a business. No ifs and buts about it. This is a business. Anytime somebody gets that key, turns that truck on, they need to understand that they're about to make some money, and they have to have their business stuff in order from the jump. So let's talk about semi trucks. You say, hey, Jeff, I want to go get me a semi truck. I got my CDL, Class A. My question's going to be to you is, do you know what because the money is in the trailer. So do you know what kind of trailer you want to get? Do you want to get a flatbed? Do you want to get a reefer trailer? Do you want to get a drive-in? Do you want to do a heavy haul? What it is that you want to do. You're based in North Carolina. You say, well, I want to do drive-in. Okay. Now, do you know how long you want to be out every week? Do you want to be home on the weekends? You want to go for 2 weeks, off a week, go back on the road, back and forth? You say, we go through all of those conversations. And then you say, you know what? We done had a conversation. We went from point A to point Z as far as starting the business. You know your numbers, how much, if you self-dispatch or if you have a dispatcher, you say, hey, I need XYZ, which is my break-even number. Before I start making a profit, I need my XYZ to be this dollar amount. I have a client, his break-even number is $1.97. Somebody's like, oh, that's cheap freight. But a lot of people don't even know what their break-even number is. They yell what they see on social media, because a lot of people on social media, you talked about it a minute ago, during COVID, before COVID, especially during COVID, a lot of people were saying, hey, get out here, get you a truck, you'll run up a bag, but they didn't tell them anything past that. They just grabbed the truck, 160. I saw a Kenworth truck. I know a gentleman that works at the Kenworth dealership off 285. $180,000 truck. And it was not even that year. It was like 4 years old. Like $180,000 truck, and they're going to finance it. Because somebody on social media said, hey, you can run up a bag out here and let's do it. Didn't tell them anything past. Or you have people that said, like, I got plenty of stories. Like, young ladies came to me. She wanted, talk about dispatching. She said she took someone's course. She had more questions. The person said, you got to pay me again for a consultation one-on-one. And she's like, well, I just paid you $2,000 for your course. Yeah, I know, but you got to pay me for another consultation. Then you get into the fact of a lot of people, when they get a truck, like, just say, for me, if I don't have a CDL and you have a CDL and I'm the person that's making a business decision to go purchase a truck, and then I hire you as the driver, they don't even understand from a business perspective, me, the guy purchasing the truck, they don't understand how much will you pay your driver. They say, well, I'm just going to charge what everybody else in the industry charges. We have to know what you can afford to pay that driver. And then once you say, hey, I'm going to pay this driver XYZ amount, you have to stick to that. It can't be, oh, we came up short this week, so I'm not going to pay you what I promised to pay you. I'll catch you up next time, because next time may not come. They may say, okay, the first time, but the next time it happens, you got that truck over in Ohio and you based out of North Carolina, and that person say, you know what, man, I'm sorry,
I'm done.
now I'm done. Now your truck is sitting up there with a load on the back of it in Cleveland, Ohio, on the side of the interstate. Now you got to worry about the truck getting towed. So now you got that bill. You got to worry about being blacklisted by the brokers that's going to give you the loads. You know, it's a whole snowball effect when you have different things like that. Then you talk about just knowing, like, keeping your word. You know, a lot of drivers, of course, I meet so many different people, but drivers say, man, I was working for this company and they told me they, it's going to bring me home on Friday. And then the dispatcher said, oh, I see this great load. We're going to get you home next time. But this man had already promised his family he'd be home on Friday because it's his kid's birthday this weekend. Now he's like, hey, I can't make it home because they got me going out to Tennessee. I'm 175 miles away from home. Maybe I'm trying to make this money. I'm trying to make sure we taken care of, we straight. So, it's all about keeping your word, keeping your promise when you bring somebody on the fold. But it could be a whole day's conversation as far as when somebody gets behind that wheel, whether you are the driver or you hire a driver, you have to have things in place before you even turn that truck on. Before you turn that truck on, you have conversations with folks that, as they're taking their CDL, if they can drive a manual or if it's an automatic. If you get an automatic and you get an automatic restriction, and then you go work for a company like a Swift or something, and it doesn't work out for you, and then you come work for Jeff or Exavious, and we have manual trucks. Now you're like, oh shoot, I can't drive those. So just conversations like that. You talk about it in the beginning before you go out and spend your last on a truck in a trailer. Before you go out and promise your family, like, yo, I'm gonna do this for XYZ. You got to have those conversations with your family in the beginning, because everybody says they understand, but then when they turn around and say, hey, I need you to do XYZ, you trying to be safe on the road, but then you have, the situations at home that, you respect home, they respect you, but when it comes down to it, man, I need you here at home, And it's, in some places, if you want to do local, then they turn around and say you need 2 years experience. I can't get off the road and become home because nobody wants to hire me. And that's a thing that a lot of these companies have to look at, where I understand a person that just got out of CDL school is one thing, but if somebody's been OTR for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years or more, and then they want to come on the road local, then the company says you need 2 years. Like, how does that doesn't
2 years of local routing, or
2 years of working local? Like, how does that work? Like, you've been on the road already in a semi truck for 8 years, but then you turn around and say, I need more experience to run local. Where am I going to get the experience from if you don't allow me to come in? Put me on a trial basis or something.
Okay. Hold on, Jeff, man. You feeding me with a hose pipe, man. Okay, so I'm hearing so much, Jeff. Yeah. And I don't want you to give too much away either, because I know this in part is what you do for your livelihood. So don't give them too much right now, Jeff. The business of it all. Mm-hmm. I almost feel like I got to work backwards, because I don't want to miss what you just said about, again, man, so much gets put on the, and I don't, you know what I mean. The crowd knows what I mean. On the underlay, right? The person who's grinding it out from day to day, when in fact it takes two, right? There's a company, there's a management team, there's a supervisor who, there's an HR department that can affect, the policies that I deal with in this job, right? That affect my ability to be able to be qualified for this job, like you're talking about with the 8 years of OTR experience, but you're really almost talking semantics but you need 2 years It's like 2 years of what, sir? Of being able to turn at red lights in an urban setting? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? And it sounds to me, and I know this is just the reality, I think, in America across a lot of industries, but certainly in the mobility and transportation space, man, there's just some updating that needs to happen.
Yeah,
across the board, right? You talking tech, you talking various tech resources. I mean, that's still how many fleets still ain't even got telematics, man? Right? You know what I'm saying? Or don't have any camera systems, in cab, 360, nothing.
Or they don't have a safety department. Some companies don't have a safety department. They're relying on somebody that does HR to cover their safety stuff when the HR person is hired to make sure that the HR stuff is done. They don't know what the HR person is hired to do HR. They don't know about the safety aspect. But there are companies out there that literally, like, they have like a 1-page, be safe, sign here at the bottom, but they don't have anybody doing safety meetings.
1 page.
They doing pre-trips, post-trips, whatever safety aspect that you require of your company. Some people don't even have a safety department.
I'm tripping. So, okay, for whoever's listening, Mr. Renfroe is telling y'all all kind of opportunities to do business in this space. Everything from driver training to dietary uptick on what can be fed to people, to various trainings, to sounds like, and I imagine it's out there, but it sounds like there could be outsourced, safety departments, you know what I'm saying? Or fractional safety departments. Hey, we need you to come in here. Safety, bruh. I don't think people understand when we talk about risk management and fleet safety, that is not a bookmark in the margins.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be. Obviously, to your point, it too often is, but like safety literally is everything. In this industry. It's everything. You got a big old vehicle, and in the trucking space, many times full of who knows what, right? Even if it's full of bed sheets, pillows, right? You're talking thousands of pounds of equipment and materials, heading down even at 30 miles an hour. Like it's moving, or like you said, it gets turned on. There's a fuel type. There's a battery in it. Safety is it. Are you sleepy? Are you on your phone? Everything. It's all safety.
All safety.
It's all safety. So to hear that there are companies that are slighting on that's scary, man. Like that's where is there? And I'm speaking in ignorance because this is a vertical that again I ashamedly need to know more about. But everybody knows that restaurant, or even just if somebody's cooking and selling food in this country, like they are subject to a health inspection, right? If they are legitimately doing business, is there an equivalent to that? Like, does the DOT, is there somebody who's regularly running audits and checking on companies to see if certain things are in place for the safest outcomes? Is that a thing?
I know. Well, when I speak to the DOT aspect, DOT just had what's called DOT Blitz Week.
Yes,
it just ended last week. So it's a yearly thing. I know they, from my understanding, if I remember correctly, they do 2 or 3 a year. But DOT, when the trucks hit the road, and this is, and it's funny that we're talking about this subject because I actually was a part of and I'll send you the video. I was part of the in-person discussion with the DOT officer, and they talk about, things that they look at as a truck, if one of the things they say, if the truck looks dirty, they know they probably not checking, their brakes and different things like that. If they, what I want to say, if they have like things on the dash, those are, safety risks. It's just different things. Like DOT, whenever a truck hits the road, they're out there to ensure that, you see that car on your right and coming up on your mirror. They want to ensure that your EOD device and your cameras are mounted properly so you can still see. So there's a lot of different things that DOT checks for on the road. I know a lot of people frown on DOT, but they are here to protect you and I on the road, whether you driving a commercial or you're in a personal vehicle. A lot of people with a personal vehicle, they have to respect the trucks as well. Like, don't just cut them off. Don't cut them off.
Like that's the big boy on the road. Like, why would you? It's a strange thing, man. We have to. Every citizen clearly, if they got any kind of attitude against or negative attitude about DOT, about truck drivers, like we got who doesn't want to get home safely?
Right.
Every time.
Right.
Every time. Right? You have a young daughter who, since she lives in another state, that tells me she drives. Yeah. Right? Let me ask you, because my wife is telling me I have a soon to be 16-year-old who literally she just came in the door. Yeah. that was her right there from her last day of required driver school. Right? Like we're right here in it. Okay. And great instructor. Props to Mr. Jackson here with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. An elder black man who does this almost charitably to teach young people how to drive, man. But he's giving me insights the other day on her progress, and I'm sitting there kind of like, oh, okay. But my wife told me a long time ago that I would be the one behind the wheel teaching her how to drive. She's like, I'm not getting in the car with the kids, right? I don't know if your wife told you something similar, but right. But what we're concerned about, because kids are thinking about if they're gonna get a car at some point. Man, look, yes, when you buy one, number one, but number two. Yeah, we're concerned about you getting home safely.
Yeah.
Every time. And everybody has seen multiple news coverages of somebody nodding off or somebody being intoxicated. And it just this crazy, massive loss. Even if that's one person, like, why do we need to lose one person? Because somebody got an attitude.
Yeah.
Safety, y'all. Safety first. For real. First, second, third, and last. Safety. That's news to me, Jeff, about the safety departments, dog. I'm tripping. we got to do something about that because that ain't gonna work.
It's not even just private fleets; it's like commercial fleets also.
See, and that takes me back to you outlining the details of what people need to understand even before turning the truck on, right? Because everything you're talking about is real cost, right? You're talking departments. Right? You're talking somebody who knows this, who has experience in it, who has training in it, and they got a team of people they work with. But we'll go out. Why are we going out here, Cuzzo and I, the two of us, and maybe we got, homegirl, at the house running dispatch. And it's like, whoa, I am the first to sign up and appreciate the hustle. I appreciate the hustle.
Right.
But at the same time, we got to do it not just right, man. We got to work toward doing it best. And, I see we live in such a great era you gave a little bit of your age away. So you've seen some eras throughout your lifetime of business. But we really do live in an era where, man, as a young person, you can get the bag. You can stack some real money and set yourself up on a wonderful course where the latter half or latter part of your life isn't nearly as difficult as it was for your mom or dad or your grandparents. But with that, understand we are an age. We still in the information age, right? And there's so much information at our fingertips. But as much as that is a blessing, the burden is, the responsibility is, the stewardship is the ability to discern what information do I actually consume and process, right? Mm-hmm. So with that, Jeff, real quick, sir, because you drive by day.
Yeah.
But that's not all you do. And if you would just tell the people who really are part of this conversation, who live this conversation, what you do and maybe how they can get a hold of you if they're looking to elevate their owner-operator situation, because you, sir, are somebody that they need to know. Give us the commercial, Jeff.
The commercial, Jeff, is somebody that thrives for education. While we're speaking on just having knowledge of self and what's going on, I got plenty of these books laying around. I say, instead of me just giving out information and not being accurate, I go right to the source. I'd rather the information that you need up front versus me just telling you something and then you well, I don't know if he's telling the truth. I'm getting it straight from the people that make the rules and regulations. This is not my word, not your word. This is straight what they telling me. But what I do is, just educate. I don't have an educational background. I do have a criminal justice degree, but when it comes to the trucking thing, a lot of people have got into it for the wrong reasons and have flamed out even faster. So if you truly want to be in this industry, you have to invest in yourself, and that comes from just educating yourself. So I do consultations. I do Saturday sessions with Zoom. I do, guest speaking in platforms like this. So I'm available, just if you want to educate the community on everything trucking, whether it's private side, commercial side, and whatever it is that you want to talk about, we can have that discussion. I love talking about trucking. Like I said, I've been doing commercial driving since 1999.
Wow.
On time, easier times. Life is a much simpler, thing back then. But, with everything, things change, life change. We all grow up and get better every day, at least try. I know I do. Try to get better every day. But you can reach me, my email, info@fro-dispatching.com. Cell phone number is 678-683-1735. Text me, call me, let's talk trucking. I love it.
So y'all heard it. If you're trying to get the bag, if you're trying to get into this game, into this business, which is an incredibly booming business that has one of the most incredible trajectories on the upside for the coming decade, higher than any other industry. I mean, this space is set to grow at nearly 20% by, I think, 2033, right? I mean, you're just talking a lot of, but that needs literal hands on the wheel. That needs technological innovation and minds. That needs common sense that knows how to organize and troubleshoot and problem solve. It needs the best of business acumen. It needs those who are hungry. It needs people who are honest, people who dig on safety, people who care about individuals and families. There's a space for y'all in this. And this man, Mr. Jeff Renfroe, is an incredible resource for, again, helping you navigate toward both success and sustainability in this space. For Black people who are interested in trucking, interested in logistics, I know this is a legitimate, great way to grow your personal economy and build a family business. But before y'all do that, you need to talk to Jeff. Jeff, you just leaked another one on us that you got this criminal justice degree. This guy, he's like a pseudo attorney over here. They want to tell us, but the reason that's interesting to me, again, if somebody's looking up trucking on social, you're gonna see a whole stream dedicated to the homies who were once convicted. Obviously that's difficult coming out. Yeah, you've been supposedly rehabbed and you did your time, but you and I and all the bros know that don't equal a clean sheet when you come out, because that stain has historically been put on us. And the first thing and the most important thing that anybody, especially a man, needs to be able to do is earn for himself and his family. But it's extra tough when you want to. Here you are trying to be honest, and you need to be honest. And here comes that question on the application: have you been convicted of a felony within the last, however long?
Right.
Is this path? Because a lot of cats come out, get your CDL, and I can help you get. And I'm sure I know that's happened. I know there's some good stuff there. But again, from your expertise, is this a viable path? Is this a viable channel of opportunities for the brothers and sisters who are coming from incarceration looking for an honest way to make a living?
150%. It is, without a doubt. You can go get your commercial driver's license, whether you want to go work for a company. There are a bunch of second chance companies out here that'll give you an opportunity, or if you get with a company that says we'll do a lease program. We can talk about whether a lease program is good or not, but they have lease programs, lease to purchase programs. Or if you get a grant, or somebody that has some money to say, hey, I just want to buy my own truck, because you don't have to necessarily go out and buy a truck and trailer. But if you have your truck, there's companies out here that have trailers that you can use and rent and stuff like that. I know him out of Texas. He got 45 trailers. He could rent a trailer. So definitely, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And the last thing I want to say before we move on to something else, in this industry, especially if you go private side, within the first 2 years, the failure rate is over 80% due to lack of education.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that, Jeff. Tell us again.
The failure rate, if you're coming in the industry, private side, is over 80% due to lack of education.
Education. Learn.
Education,
baby, learn.
Compensation. That's what it is. Education before compensation.
Love that. Look. We just going to debunk it right now. I just want to make it clear, and I'm an educator. Literally, I'm a certified teacher, right? And I've taught for the vast majority of my adult life in very real, serious ways. I believe in education. I have multiple degrees on up to the master's level. I kicked off a doctorate at one point. So I get it, but also came from that Cosby generation, right? Mm-hmm. Generation X, right? Go to college. And from where I live, from the path that my parents came from, which they were not, they ended up with degrees and whatnot, but that ain't where they came from. But we hear a lot about more and more, as we should, about the trades and vocational paths these days, right? You're talking to us today and schooling us on the trucking space and the opportunities that are there, but also what one needs to understand and know to be successful in it. I just want to make it clear, man. And you even said about yourself, Jeff, right? Which is funny. You almost like, I'm not the smartest guy. If I'm like, lie. They're like, no, Jeff, like you got mad. I mean, okay, you didn't go to school for supply chain or something like that, but I mean, you talking, 25 plus years in this behind the wheel. And we know, when you touching something every day, like that's what better experience can you get? Like experience over academics anytime. But I just want to make it clear to our listeners, man. And this is going to take us into this next question. It takes us back to the beginning of our conversation with you. We got to stop. We got to stop putting the university path on a pedestal over other options for learning. The key is we got to start teaching our children, right? When that high schooler, who's especially a little bit of a knucklehead or whatever, is a sophomore, junior, senior, somebody needs to sit that kid down and help them understand, you know what? Yeah, you in here with your classmates that are going to go to a university of whatever, and that's fine for them. Because at the beginning and the end of the day, that's something their family's dealing with. Just like your family is dealing with whatever it's dealing with. And yeah, you got to make decisions for yourself, yada, yada. But the key is to have a post-secondary education, which can come in many forms. It might be that certification program that only takes 3 months, 6 months. It might be 4, 5, 6 year, university path. It might be, a few courses you pay a few $100s for because you're a visionary and you're hustling. But commit yourself to learning and continuing to learn. Right? And your phrase of education before compensation even has me thinking, for when you want to take that next step, the next level of compensation, you probably need to commit to that next level of education. You know what I mean? So let's rewind it a bit, Jeff. You said, and this is something, man, I got about 5 regrets in life. and it's only 5 because I realized living with regrets is just a path toward self-destruction. Nobody needs to carry that mess. But I got, about 5 reasonable things that are worth me just shaking my head about when I think about it. One of them is that when I was a young single man, because I didn't get married till I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of years working. I always worked, and I like working. I'm kind of a workaholic. But what I didn't do, let me speak on the part. What I did do is I only worked one job. And when I look back, I'm thinking, Lord, what was I doing? All these hours in the day and night when I wasn't doing nothing except tricking it off. I'm just to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I'm not saying I was ill. I wasn't running these streets all the time. But it's like, man, and you mentioned earlier, stacking cash when you had 2 jobs. What would you say to that, to the young person now who, if you don't have a child to take care of, if you ain't got a spouse, all you got is time? Jeff, what should you be doing with this time, especially as a young Black person?
Ooh, I think a couple parts of that. When you thinking about stacking your bread, just ask yourself, is this a job that I want to stay at for the next 5 to 7 years? And if the answer is yes, still have a plan in place for when that 7 years is coming up. what's the next thing? What's the next phase? What do you go with that? Like at my current job, when I first got there, lady, she's going on to glory now. She told me, you'll know within the first 8 years of working here whether or not you want to stay here long term or not. And so that always stuck with me. And surely enough, 8 years came up, and I said, okay, now I know which direction I want to go. But when you're a young person, you have nothing but time on your hand. Stack your bread. Think about what you want, what kind of vehicle you want to put your money in to maybe make that money grow, whether it's stocks, real estate, or just investing in yourself, because you can always, turn around and spend that money on a certification, learning AI, how AI works, how AI thinks, integrating technology into your everyday life is going to take you a long way, because the world is changing. From when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. We had, hop on your bike and, you go meet your friends, hopefully they were there. If they weren't there, then you knew to go ride down the street. Maybe they was at somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Where technology is like, hey, let me see their location. Oh, shoot, they around the corner. I'll pull up on y'all in a second. FaceTime, stuff like that. Stuff we didn't have. Technology is, they say technology is a gift and a curse. But if you use it the right way, it's a beautiful thing, and it can help your business grow. A lot of people in the commercial space don't use technology in their business, but just investing in yourself. If I would have, when I was working those 2 jobs, if I would have been taught about how to make my money grow as a young person, I probably, and the crazy enough story is my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother, they invested in real estate, but nobody really taught me that. So if I would have known stuff like that, I'm working 2 jobs. Like I said, living in New York, I could have had 3 and 4 houses over, and probably, who knows what went in thinking, just not being taught, like you can't always rely on this one job, because the saying goes, if they have the ability to feed you, they have the ability to starve you. And I learned that at the current job that I have, 2018, I got wrongfully terminated. And I said, it'll never be. And it happened 2 times in my adult life, and both times I've been in Georgia. And after that second one with my current job, of course, I was at home for 8 days. I knew it wasn't my fault, my wrongdoing. I was going to get my job back because I'm in a union. I said it would not be a third. The next time I'm going to walk away from my job, because I figured that, okay, with all of the different moving parts at this job, they always can say, it's you're the problem, you're the reason why you're getting let go. So let me figure out somewhere else that I can make the money that I'm making or more and keep elevating myself, so that when it comes time to having some money set to the side, if something comes up, I can say, oh, let me take this money, put it in this vehicle right here. Because I had that mindset of, if I work, I get to play. If I work, I get to eat. If I work, I get to do what I want to do with my time. But when you work, make sure you have some kind of plan in place. Regardless of how you get out of high school, I say get a CDL. Even if you don't use it, it's something to have in your back pocket, because that's what my mom told me. She said, son, you get that CDL, never let it go. Keep it in your back pocket, because whatever job you decide to go, if things don't work out, you don't like the way things are going, you can go get a commercial job anywhere there. Private, commercial, whatever it is that you want to do, you go get a job anywhere. In the United States, you could go get a job anywhere. Anywhere.
Because drivers are always in demand.
Always. And then you have what they call them, the baby boomers. They're at that age where they're set to retire. So
out of here.
Next generation just coming up into the ranks, you know what I'm saying? And the pay that they were making when they first started is much different from the pay that you'll be making, coming in the door. Like, I don't want to, talk about where I'm at currently, but they pay pretty well. They pay,
man.
Just like just knowing like where to go, where you want to invest your time, studying, researching, just having that conversation with other people like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what do you think about that? Not somebody that's not doing it. You want to talk to people that's actually doing it, because I can't come to Zay and say, hey, what do you think about teaching? And Zay ain't teaching. But Zay is teaching, so I could come to Zay because he's teaching. I can't go to somebody that's not actually in that field, So it's always good to talk to somebody that's already in that, what you're trying to go, if you're thinking about it.
Love that. Have a plan, have a plan, have a plan. And I think the toughest thing about being young and dealing with young folks is really that lack of foresight, right? And because that's not something that you can just, drop into a young mind. I mean, that is something that maybe a kid has kind of a gift for that, but otherwise, man, that's something that we talk about all the time, right? Hindsight is 20/20. But that's why it's so important for our young people to not shun the older generations, right? Yeah, you might want to unk us out or whatever, but the fact is, man, Jeff is going to be your greatest, I don't say asset because that's objectifying language, but, human resource, for somebody who has lived a complex life in various contexts, man. You're not talking somebody who had a linear, that's, that gets on my nerves, man. And that's my issue with some of the jockeying of the political figures right now. All right. I'm not naming no names. I ain't got to. I said enough right there, right? But, so many of these people, if you've always lived in affluence, you ain't got no depth to you. You haven't lived you don't have a story. What's your story when your pops or your moms came from wealth, created wealth, and just handed it over, and you continue? Ooh, like that ain't special, But somebody who went through some true ups and downs, and who went from those downs and figured a way out to go up, man, tap in. And those are also the people who are willing to share and the mentor. So props to you, Mr. Renfroe, for who you are as a man. We need you out here, man. And it's a blessing to know you. All right, Jeff, man, I don't want to wrap this up, but we probably should. And man, because I'm learning. I'm just like, yo, and I'm only feeling more and more guilt for dropping that CD. But you know what? I was struggling. But I might go get, and I want to make it clear to the point you just made, about the boomers, right? Who are, they're retiring. Some of them are dying, right? They're out of here in some shape, form, or fashion when it comes to whatever professional space they occupy. And people have to understand that ain't leaving nothing but opportunity, right? And as much as we, want to talk about AI, and we do, AI can't replace everything. It won't. It never will. Technology digitally won't replace everything. We need people to improve the technology. We need people to improve the AI, but also to do a whole lot of jobs that I think it's going to take a long time before an entire nation of people is on board with autonomous tractor trailers, bro.
Very long.
Like, it's gonna be some generations, because I don't want to see that. I'm still kind of with the with the little sedans or coupes that are doing deliveries in certain places. I'm like, oh shoot, ain't nobody in that vehicle. It's cool and I get it, but because I just don't think you can.
It's not there for it. It's not there.
Number one, big number one, but also, can the human. And we know every person has different response and reaction times based on their brain health and mental quickness or whatever. But man, there's just something we got to stop trying to replace people. Like we just, God made us, man, and if people don't understand the perfection of that, like my reaction time, I already know my reaction time is going to outdo a computer's reaction time behind the wheel. It just is, because and I don't care how much data's been pumped into you. I've been on this road a lot more than you have, a lot longer. But anyway, I know I've made some people mad, whatever. But look, Jeff, we have been blessed. And we haven't taken enough advantage of your presence in BFN, man. But you have been a rider from nearly day one with Black Fleet Network, man. And you came through the blessed referral of the homegirl, a lot of love, and who's out here constantly making moves, man. But tell us, man, what does a Black Fleet Network mean to you, man? Coming from where you come from, being who you are, seeing all you've seen, the investment that you have in this industry. What is it about a BFN that is significant to you?
The main significance for me is the name, Black Network. I know it's Black Fleet Network, but it's Black people networking. That just so happened to have to do with fleets, because where a lot of times where conversations are being had, you may have conferences going on, you may see a handful of us in there. But then you have other places where, we have these meetings and you get an information, but then the information stops there in that room. Versus, BFN has folks all over and they're networking all the time. I talk to Nick, I talk to Jason up in Michigan. It's always something great, because regardless of if it's private or commercial, it's still wheels turning. So there's things that have to be done and have to be talked about. That's a great conversation, regardless of what side of the fence that commercial vehicle is on. So, just the camaraderie, if that's even a word, just, being able to, be around like-minded people, just talking about what's going on in the industry, things you may not have heard of, resources, talking about, you need to speak to this person because they're doing that. You need to speak to that person because, they just came back from speaking to somebody over there, and I would love to introduce you all, put you in a group text, put you in a group chat. That's something like Lotta always did. Like, hey, I know this person over here. Let me connect you with that person. You guys say, I know you good for this. Let me put you over there. Let me email you some email chain. You guys need to exchange information and get on the phone ASAP. So, and my guy Chris, I know Chris is with the tow trucks.
Yeah, man. Look. See, when I said Chris, I was like, does Jeff know what Chris? Because I was talking about a real person. Chris, shouts to Chris Slaughter. Yes, sir.
I don't know if he told you, but I knew Chris. He used to, I had a Mercury Grand Marquis. Okay. Him and his company used to pick up my vehicle when it had like issues or whatever. I met Chris a long time ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not to talk about where I'm at, but I used to make deliveries to Chris's house also.
What? Oh, I can't take it.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Chris is my guy. Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
see, man. Look, I tell people all the time, man. Like I remember when this, at first. I mean, you start where you start. So I'm rapping with the few people I know in the industry. I'm thinking about doing this thing, yada yada. They're like, yeah, all right, okay, we down, all right, cool, right. And then what they do, they start telling their people, yada yada, okay, cool. But for that first little bit, you kind of know all the names that are coming through. You know what I'm saying? Or you might have got you may have gotten the intro. Oh, hey, this is Jeff Renfroe. You know, okay, oh Jeff, good to meet you. Yada yada. Okay, but then there was a point where, you know, we kind of talking amongst ourselves, you know, the board of directors, like, who's this that just became a member? You know, it's like, hold on, you know? And man, like that, what you just detailed, bro, is just the best thing ever to me. Cause I'm like, it works, y'all. Like, it works. Absolutely. So thank you for that, Jeff. And thank you for being a part of this, man. And thank you for what you do. I know you got an incredible game plan for your life and for your family that you are working, and it's working beautifully. I ain't gonna tell people your business, but just know again that men like Jeff Renfroe and his lovely bride, because they work together. That's a whole conversation we need to have, Jeff, about this family structure out here and what that means to our people coming soon enough. But Jeff, you truly are a beacon of light and of reason and of resource, man. So thank you for being who you are. Thank you for rocking with BFN. And thank you for treading deep with us today, my man.
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for having me, man. Looking forward to everything that we got coming on, you know, down the pipeline, and, you know, looking forward to taking care of the people.
Tread deep.